Dr. Lisa Kane looked through the viewing window of the research ship Horizon's Edge. The stars seemed different here, near the edge of the galaxy where few ships traveled. She had spent 12 years studying new species across space, but this latest discovery excited her more than any other. The ship's computer had detected a small metal object moving through space. It was crude and simple, nothing like the advanced ships that traveled between worlds. But it carried messages and pictures from a species that had never left their home planet before. "Captain Vextai, come look at this," Lisa called to the ship's navigator. Vextai moved across the bridge, his tall blue form making soft musical sounds with each step. His people spoke through music and tones, but he had learned to use the common language that most species in the galaxy understood. "What have you found, Dr. Kane?" Vextai asked, his voice creating gentle harmonies even when speaking normal words. "A probe from a world called Earth. The species calls themselves humans. Look at these images they sent." Lisa pointed to the screen showing pictures of a blue and green planet. The images showed creatures that walked on two legs, built cities, and used simple tools. Chief Science Officer Crawl Fen clicked his way over to join them. His insect-like body was 3 times larger than Lisa's, and his 4 arms moved in careful patterns as he studied the data. The Hive Collective had taught him to think in groups, but working with other species had shown him how to focus on single problems. "Interesting," Crawlfin buzzed. "They appear to be basic tool users, similar to the nest builders we found near the Vega system. What is their technology level?" Lisa pulled up more information on her screen. Very simple. They use chemical rockets to move through space. Their probe is made of basic metals and carries simple electronic devices. But look at this. They included detailed information about their species and their world. The 3 scientists studied the human messages. The probe carried sounds of human music, pictures of their art, and descriptions of their science. The humans had included information about their bodies, their history, and their daily lives. "They seem friendly," Vextai noted, his tones shifting to show curiosity. "Most species we contact are afraid when they first meet others from space. These humans appear excited about the possibility." Crawlfin's compound eyes examined the technical data. Their tools are very basic. Simple cutting implements, devices for making fire, basic chemical compounds for cleaning and building, standard survival equipment for a developing species. Lisa nodded as she read through the human information. They call it their basic toolkit, things that most humans carry for everyday tasks. Hammers for building things, knives for cutting, chemicals for cleaning. Very ordinary items for their level of development. The ship's communication system chimed softly. A message appeared on the main screen from the Galactic Federation headquarters. Lisa read it quickly and smiled. "We have approval to make contact," she announced. "A Federation Council has reviewed the human probe data. They classify humans as a Category C species, friendly but primitive. We can proceed with first contact protocols." Vextai's musical tones shifted to show excitement. "Shall I set course for their world?" "Yes, but approach carefully. We don't want to frighten them." Lisa looked back at the human images on her screen. According to their data, they have a space station orbiting their planet. We can make contact there first. The Horizon's Edge moved toward Earth's solar system. The journey took several days, and during that time Lisa studied everything the humans had included in their probe. She found their species fascinating in its simplicity. Humans lived short lives compared to most galactic species, but they seemed to pack a lot of activity into their time. They built cities, created art, explored their world, and constantly invented new things. Their technology was basic, but they used it in creative ways. "Look at this," Lisa showed Crawlfin some human pictures. "They use fire not just for warmth, but to change the properties of materials. They heat metals to shape them, use controlled burning to clear land, and even use fire to prepare their food in different ways. Krolthen examined the images with interest, creative applications of basic technology. This is common among developing species. They must adapt simple tools for many purposes. When they reached Earth's orbit, Lisa was amazed by what she saw. The humans had built several structures in space, a large station where people lived and worked, and smaller satellites that circled the planet. For such a primitive species, they showed remarkable determination to leave their world. There, Vextai pointed to the largest structure. That appears to be their main orbital facility. I can detect several humans aboard. Lisa activated the ship's communication system. She had programmed it to translate her words into the human language called English. This is Dr. Lisa Kane of the Galactic Federation research vessel Horizon's Edge. We have received your probe and wish to make peaceful contact with your species. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a voice came through the speakers, sounding excited and nervous at the same time. This is Jake Miller aboard the International Space Station. Did you just say you're from space? I mean, from other worlds? Lisa smiled. Even through the translation, she could hear the wonder in the human's voice. Yes, Jake Miller. We represent many species from across the galaxy. We would like to meet with you and learn about your people. This is incredible. Wait, let me get the rest of the crew. Everyone needs to hear this. Soon Lisa was talking to 6 humans aboard their space station. They asked hundreds of questions about other worlds, other species, and life in the galaxy. Their curiosity impressed her. Most new species were more cautious during first contact. We have so much to show you, Jake Miller said. Our world, our people, our technology. It's not much compared to what you must have, but we're proud of what we've built. We would be honored to learn about your species, Lisa replied. Perhaps you could show us some of your tools and technology? Of course. I've got my standard work kit right here. Every engineer carries basic tools for repairs and maintenance. Jake floated over to a storage compartment and pulled out a collection of items. Lisa watched through the viewing screen as he displayed them one by one. This is a hammer for pounding things into place. Here's a cutting tool we call a knife. These are basic chemical compounds, cleaners, adhesives, things like that. And this device creates sparks to start fires or weld metals together. Lisa made notes as Jake showed each item. Everything looked exactly like what she expected from a Category C species. Simple tools for basic tasks. Nothing unusual or dangerous. Very interesting, she told Jake. These appear to be standard survival implements. Most developing species create similar tools. Yeah, just basic stuff, Jake agreed. Most humans carry something like this for everyday work. You learn to use whatever you have available to solve problems. Krolthen leaned over to Lisa and buzzed quietly. Typical tool user mentality. They adapt simple implements for various tasks. Nothing we haven't seen before. Lisa nodded and turned back to the communication screen. Jake Miller, on behalf of the Galactic Federation, I would like to formally invite humanity to join our community of worlds. Your species shows great promise. The excitement in Jake's voice was clear, even through the translator. We accept. This is the greatest day in human history. As Lisa ended the communication and began preparing her report, she felt satisfied. With another successful first contact, the humans seemed pleasant and eager to learn. Their basic toolkit of simple tools showed they were resourceful within their limitations. She classified their equipment as standard Category C survival gear and noted that humans appeared to be another friendly, primitive species ready to take their first steps into the larger galaxy. Her report would recommend them for immediate integration as a junior member species. Lisa had no idea that she had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. 6 months had passed since first contact with Earth. Ambassador Amy Foster stood in her new office on Haven Station, looking out at the busy docking bays where ships from 100 different worlds came and went. She still could not believe that she was humanity's first representative to the galaxy. The office was simple but comfortable. The Galactic Federation had provided everything humans needed to feel at home: furniture the right size, air with the right mixture of gases, and even a small kitchen where Amy could prepare Earth food. She had been surprised by how thoughtful the alien species were. "Amy, the morning briefing is ready," called Ben Hughes from the next room. Ben handled communications for the human embassy, translating between the dozens of languages used on Haven Station. He had learned to speak with the musical Zephyrians, the clicking hive collective, and even the complex smell language of the scent-speakers. Amy walked into the briefing room where her small staff waited. Besides Ben, there was Rachel Torres, who studied alien cultures and helped humans understand the strange customs of other worlds. The three of them made up Earth's entire diplomatic presence in the galaxy. "What's on the schedule today?" Amy asked, settling into her chair with a cup of coffee. The hot drink had become popular with several alien species, though most found it too bitter without adding sweet substances. Ben checked his electronic tablet. "You have a meeting with the Traders Guild at 10. They want to discuss what Earth products might be valuable for export." "Then lunch with Captain Vextai. He's been asking about human music." "This afternoon you're giving a presentation to the Science Council about human technology." Rachel looked up from her own notes. "I've been getting interesting questions from alien researchers. They want to know more about human tools and daily life. Dr. Kane has been particularly curious about what she calls our basic survival toolkit." Amy nodded. The aliens seemed fascinated by the simple things humans did every day. They asked endless questions about how humans prepared food, built homes, and solved everyday problems. She found it amusing that such basic activities interested advanced species so much. The morning meeting with the Traders Guild went well. The aliens were excited about Earth's variety of foods, especially the ones that used fermentation and chemical reactions to create different flavors. They could not understand how humans had developed so many ways to change simple ingredients into complex meals. "Your species uses controlled chemical reactions for food preparation," noted Guild leader Threx Din, whose elephant-like trunk swayed as he spoke. "Most species eat their food in its natural state. This technique of yours is quite creative." Amy smiled. "We just call it cooking. Most human children learn basic cooking chemistry in school. It's nothing special." Threxton made notes on his device. "Nothing special, you say? Yet you routinely use heat, acids, and fermentation to transform raw materials into entirely different substances. Fascinating." After the meeting, Amy walked through Haven Station's central plaza. The area bustled with activity as beings from across the galaxy conducted business, socialized, and learned about each other. She had grown used to the strange sights: floating jellyfish-like creatures that communicated through light patterns, rock beings that moved slowly but lived for thousands of years, and energy beings that existed as pure thought. Most aliens greeted her warmly. Humans had quickly gained a reputation as the friendly newcomers who were excited about everything. Other species found them amusing and harmless, primitive but eager to learn. Amy met Captain Vextai at a restaurant that served food from 12 different worlds. Vextai's musical speech created pleasant harmonies as he talked about his recent travels. "I have been studying human music from your probe," Vextai said, his tones shifting to show curiosity. "Your species creates many different sound patterns. Some are quite complex. Music is important to humans," Amy agreed. We use it for entertainment, for expressing emotions, and for bringing people together. Do other species make music? Some do, but not like humans. You use mathematical relationships between sound frequencies to create emotional responses. Most species that make organized sounds do so only for communication or mating rituals. Amy found it interesting that aliens thought human music was unusual. To her, it seemed like the most natural thing in the world. Would you like me to show you some instruments? I brought a few simple ones from Earth. Vextai's musical tones shifted to excitement. Yes, please. After lunch, Amy returned to her office and gathered some basic musical instruments she had brought from home. She carried them to the Science Council chambers, where dozens of alien researchers waited to hear her presentation. The council chamber was enormous, designed to hold beings of many different sizes and shapes. Dr. Kane sat in the front row, along with other xenobiologists who studied new species. Amy noticed that many of them had electronic devices ready to record everything she said. Thank you for inviting me to speak, Amy began. I'd like to show you some examples of human technology and daily life tools. She opened her case and began pulling out items. First came a simple wooden guitar, which drew murmurs of interest from the audience. Then she showed them a basic toolkit, hammer, screwdrivers, pliers, and other implements that any human worker might carry. These represent typical human equipment, Amy explained. The guitar is for making music. The tools are for building and repairing things. Most humans own similar items. Dr. Kane raised a tentacle. Ambassador Foster, could you demonstrate how these tools work? Amy picked up the guitar and played a simple song. The aliens listened with fascination as she explained how pressing the strings at different points created different musical tones. She showed them how the mathematical relationships between the notes created harmonies that humans found pleasing. Remarkable, buzzed Crawlfin. You use tension and vibration to create controlled sound waves. This requires understanding of physics and mathematics. I suppose so, Amy said. But most humans learn to play instruments as children. We don't think of it as physics, it's just music. Next, she demonstrated the tools. She used the hammer to pound a nail into a piece of wood, showing how humans joined materials together. She used the screwdrivers to take apart and reassemble a small electronic device, explaining how humans maintained their equipment. The aliens watched with intense interest as Amy performed these simple tasks. They asked detailed questions about each tool and its applications. Dr. Kane seemed particularly interested in the chemicals Amy had brought, basic cleaners, adhesives, and other substances humans used every day. These chemical compounds, Dr. Kane said, examining a bottle of cleaning solution. What are their properties? Amy read the label. This one contains ammonia and other cleaning agents. It removes dirt and kills germs. Pretty standard stuff. And this one? Dr. Kane pointed to a small container of glue. That's just adhesive. It creates strong bonds between different materials. Humans use it for repairs and construction. Dr. Kane made extensive notes about each item. Other researchers did the same, treating Amy's simple tools as if they were advanced technology. She found their intensity amusing, but tried to answer all their questions. Do all humans carry such implements? Asked a researcher from the peaceful builders species. Most do, Amy replied. We learn to use basic tools from childhood. Everyone needs to fix things, build things, and solve everyday problems. These tools help us adapt to different situations. After the presentation, Amy packed up her items and prepared to leave. Dr. Kane approached her with additional questions. Ambassador Foster, you mentioned that humans learn these skills as children. Could you explain your educational system? Amy thought about how to describe human schools to an alien. We teach children about the world around them. Basic science, mathematics, how materials work, how to build things, how to solve problems. By the time they're adults, most humans know how to use tools, understand basic chemistry and physics, and can adapt to new situations. Dr. Kane's expression was unreadable, but she made more notes. And you consider this basic education? Of course. Every civilization teaches their children how to survive and work with their environment, right? Not exactly like this, Dr. Kane said quietly. Most species specialize. Builders learn construction, chemists learn chemistry, musicians learn music. Your species seems to teach everyone a little of everything. Amy shrugged. Humans like to be prepared for anything. You never know what problems you might face, so it's good to know how to use whatever tools are available. As Amy walked back to her office, she reflected on the day's events. The aliens seemed impressed by the simplest human activities. They treated basic tool use and everyday problem solving as if it were advanced science. She supposed that different species developed different approaches to technology and daily life. Ben was waiting in her office with a message from Earth. The president wants to know how integration is going. Should I tell him everything is proceeding smoothly? Yes, Amy replied. The aliens are very welcoming. They seem fascinated by human culture and technology, even though our technology is primitive compared to theirs. I think we're going to fit in well here. What Amy did not know was that her simple demonstration had started a galaxy-wide discussion among xenobiologists and military analysts. Dr. Kane, doubly. The emergency alarm echoed through the mining colony on Zarian 7. Danny Roberts dropped his coffee cup and ran toward the command center, his work boots pounding against the metal floor. He had been reviewing mining procedures for the past week, but now it looked like theory would become deadly reality. Colony Administrator Zeth Call stood before a large display screen, his forearms moving frantically as he tried to coordinate the rescue effort. The insectoid being's usually calm demeanor had been replaced by barely controlled panic. What's the situation? Danny asked, grabbing his work jacket from a nearby chair. Zeth Call's compound eyes focused on the human. Seismic event in Sector 7. The main support tunnel collapsed. 200 workers are trapped 3 kilometers underground. Our rescue equipment cannot reach them. Danny studied the display screen, which showed the underground layout of the mining operation. The collapse had created a massive pile of unstable rock that blocked all normal access routes. Worse, the geological readings showed that more collapses were likely. What about the heavy excavation machines? Danny asked. Too large to operate safely in the unstable area, replied Chief Engineer Yextan, a tall being whose crystalline body reflected the emergency lights. The vibrations would cause additional collapses. We need precision work, but our precision tools lack the power to move such large amounts of debris. Danny walked closer to the screen and studied the problem. The trapped miners were in a section that had been reinforced with standard galactic construction techniques. Strong but brittle materials that could not flex when the ground shifted. The access tunnels were blocked by boulders, too large for small tools, but too unstable for large machines. How much time do we have? Danny asked. The trapped workers have enough air for 12 hours, Zethkal replied. But the geological readings suggest the area will collapse completely within 6 hours. After that, no one survives. Danny nodded and walked toward the equipment bay. I'll need my work kit and access to your chemical storage facility. Danny, Zethkal called after him, our best engineers have already reviewed this situation. The mathematical models show that rescue is impossible with available equipment. Danny paused at the doorway. Your engineers think like galactic engineers. They use the right tool for each job. Where I come from, we use whatever works. In the equipment bay, Danny opened his standard work kit and laid out the contents. The alien observers watched with curiosity as he selected items that seemed completely inadequate for the massive rescue operation ahead. "These are just basic tools," observed mining supervisor Klexra. "How can simple implements help with such a large problem?" Danny picked up a small electronic device and began adjusting its settings. "This is a basic multimeter. It measures electrical current, voltage, and resistance. But it can also detect metal objects buried in rock." He connected wires to the device and fashioned a crude probe from pieces of metal in his toolkit. Within minutes, he had created a system that could map the location of metal support beams buried under the collapsed rock. "Impressive improvisation," admitted Chief Engineer Yextan. "But how does knowing the location of buried metal help us? Move tons of stone?" Danny was already working on his next modification. He took apart a simple battery-powered drill and combined its motor with parts from a broken pump. Using wire and metal pieces from his kit, he built a device that none of the aliens recognized. "Pneumatic pressure system," Danny explained as he worked. "Compressed air can move much heavier objects than you might expect. I just need to get to your chemical storage." The aliens exchanged confused glances, but led Danny to the facility where mining chemicals were stored. Danny walked through the aisles, reading labels and checking the properties of different substances. Most were standard industrial compounds used for processing extracted materials. "These two chemicals," Danny said, pointing to large containers, "when mixed in the right proportions and heated to the correct temperature, create a rapid expansion reaction." Controlled explosion. Zethkul's panic returned. "Explosions will cause more collapses." "Not if they're shaped correctly," Danny replied. Calmly, "Small, precise charges can fracture rock along specific lines without creating shock waves. It's basic demolition work." Danny spent the next hour creating devices that amazed the alien engineers. He mixed chemicals to create explosive charges no larger than his fist. He fashioned metal containers that would direct the explosive force in exactly the right direction. He built timing mechanisms using parts from broken electronics. "Where did you learn these techniques?" asked Chief Engineer Yextan. "Basic training," Danny replied, focusing on his work. "Every human construction worker learns demolition techniques. Every human soldier learns field engineering. Every human mechanic learns how to improvise repairs. We combine knowledge from different fields." As Danny worked, he explained his plan to the increasingly amazed aliens. He would use the metal detector he had built to map the exact locations of structural supports buried in the collapsed tunnel. Then he would place small explosive charges at precise points to fracture the debris into manageable pieces. Finally, he would use improvised hydraulic systems to move the broken rock. "This should not work," Yextan said, studying Danny's plans. "You are combining techniques from mining, construction, demolition, and mechanical engineering. No single individual should possess knowledge in all these areas." Danny looked up from his work. "Really? How do your species handle emergencies?" "We call specialists," Zethkul replied. "Demolition experts for explosives, construction engineers for structural problems, hydraulic specialists for moving heavy objects. And if the specialists aren't available?" The aliens had no answer. Danny gathered his improvised equipment and headed for the collapsed tunnel. The alien rescue team followed, carrying additional supplies and monitoring equipment. As they descended into the unstable underground area, the geological sensors showed continuing seismic activity. At the collapse site, Danny began working with methodical precision. He used his improvised metal detector to map the buried structure, marking locations on the tunnel walls with chalk from his basic kit. The aliens watched in fascination as he identified load-bearing supports, air pockets, and the safest paths through the debris. "The trapped workers are here," Danny said, pointing to a section of the collapse. There's a void space where they're sheltering, but it's blocked by 3 large boulders. If I can fracture those rocks precisely, we can create an access tunnel. He placed his small explosive charges at carefully calculated points using mathematical principles that the alien engineers recognized but had never seen applied in this way. Each charge was designed to crack rock along natural fault lines, breaking large boulders into pieces small enough to move by hand. The timing must be perfect, Danny explained as he connected the charges to a simple electronic timer. Each explosion must happen in sequence, so the fractures develop in the right order. Zethkal was recording everything for later analysis. These techniques require knowledge of geology, chemistry, physics, and engineering. How does one human possess expertise in so many fields? Danny shrugged as he made final adjustments to his system. Basic education. Every human learns science and mathematics in school. Then we learn job skills that use those principles. Over time, you understand how everything connects. The first explosion was smaller than the aliens expected. Instead of a violent blast, there was a sharp crack, followed by the sound of shifting rock. Danny's carefully placed charge had fractured a boulder along its natural weak points, breaking it into 3 manageable pieces. The second and third explosions followed in sequence, each one precisely timed and shaped to create the exact result Danny had planned. When the dust settled, a narrow tunnel led through the debris toward the trapped miners. Impossible, whispered Chief Engineer Yextan. The mathematical precision required for such controlled demolition should take teams of specialists weeks to calculate. Danny was already assembling his next improvised device, a hydraulic system built from pump parts, hydraulic fluid, and metal containers from the mining facility. Basic physics, he said as he worked. Pressure, leverage, and mechanical advantage. I just need to move these broken rocks out of the way. Working with mechanical systems he had built from scrap materials, Danny began clearing the tunnel. His improvised hydraulics moved tons of rock with precise control, creating a stable passage through the collapsed area. The alien engineers took detailed recordings, unable to believe what they were seeing. These are not basic techniques, Klexra said, watching Danny work. You are performing advanced engineering with primitive tools. No, Danny replied, sweat dripping from his face as he operated his improvised machines. I'm using basic knowledge with whatever materials are available. There's a big difference. 6 hours after beginning the rescue operation, Danny broke through to the trapped miners. The alien workers were frightened but alive, huddled in a small void space that had been protected by fallen support beams. They stared in amazement as the human crawled through a tunnel that should not have existed. How? Asked one of the trapped miners, speaking in the common galactic language. Danny smiled as he helped the first worker through the tunnel. Human engineering. We use what we have to sow. The attack on Kelthera came without warning. Mike Davis was inspecting the agricultural colony's defense systems when the first explosions lit up the morning sky. The Void Hunters had struck fast and hard, overwhelming the orbital defenses before anyone could react. Mike grabbed his communication device and tried to contact the Federation military response team. Static filled the channel. The attackers were jamming all communications. Through the windows of the security office, he could see enemy ships landing in the colony's main plaza. The defensive shields are down, reported Carol Wong, running into the office with dirt on her agricultural coveralls. She had been working in the experimental crop fields when the attack began. The power grid is completely destroyed. Nick Peterson burst through the door behind her, carrying his maintenance toolkit. The main communication array is gone. Those ships out there are some kind of military force, and they're heading this way fast. Mike looked at the 3 humans – and the 12 alien civilians who had taken shelter in the security office. The aliens were mostly peaceful builders, a species that had never developed weapons or military tactics. They looked to the humans with desperate hope. "Can we escape?" asked HFY, a young peaceful builder whose light blue skin had turned. Pale with fear, Mike checked the building's security monitors. Enemy soldiers in heavy armor were moving systematically through the colony, destroying equipment and capturing anyone they found. The attackers carried weapons that far exceeded anything in the colony's defensive arsenal. "No escape routes," Mike said grimly. "They've surrounded the entire colony. We're trapped here with whatever we can find in this building." Carol looked around the security office, taking inventory of available materials. "What do we have to work with?" "Basic maintenance supplies," Nick replied, opening his toolkit. "Standard repair equipment, some electronic components, basic chemicals for cleaning systems." Mike opened his own security kit and laid out the contents. Standard human emergency supplies. Nothing that looks like a weapon to galactic standards. The alien civilians watched nervously as the three humans examined their simple tools and materials. To their eyes, the humans carried the same basic implements that any maintenance worker might possess, nothing that could possibly stand against. Advanced military technology. "Perhaps we should surrender," suggested Krellmoth, an elderly peaceful builder. "The attackers may show mercy to non-combatants." Mike shook his head. "These are void hunters. They don't take prisoners. They eliminate entire populations. If we want to survive, we need to fight." "Fight with what?" HFY asked, pointing at the simple tools spread across the table. "These are maintenance implements, not weapons." Carol picked up a container of agricultural chemicals and read the label carefully. "Mike, these are standard plant nutrients and pest control compounds. Individually harmless, but if you combine them in the right proportions, ... Explosive?" Mike asked. "Better than explosive. These chemicals can create a variety of reactions, depending on how you mix them. Toxic gases, corrosive acids, even substances that burn without creating light." Nick was examining the building's electrical systems through an access panel. "The main power is down, but the backup systems are still running. If I can reroute some of this wiring and modify the voltage regulators." "What are you thinking?" Mike asked. "Electromagnetic pulse devices. Directed energy weapons. Maybe even some kind of communication jamming system to disrupt their coordination." Mike studied the building's layout on the security monitors. The structure was typical for galactic colonies, designed for comfort and efficiency, not defense. But Mike could see possibilities that the original builders had never considered. "We can turn this place into a fortress," he said, pointing to various locations on the plans. "Choke points here and here, overlapping fields of fire, concealed. Positions for ambush tactics." The alien civilians looked confused as the three humans began working with methodical efficiency. Carol mixed agricultural chemicals using precise measurements, creating substances that had not existed minutes before. Nick rewired electrical systems, building devices that served completely different purposes than their original design. Mike used furniture and building materials to create defensive positions. "What are they doing?" whispered one of the alien civilians to another. "I think they are turning cleaning supplies into warfare equipment," came the equally confused reply. Within an hour, the security office had been transformed. Mike had created defensive positions that provided cover while allowing clear fields of fire toward all entrances. Carol had prepared chemical compounds that could be deployed as gases, liquids, or solid projectiles. Nick had built electronic devices that could disrupt enemy communications, overload their equipment, or deliver dangerous electrical charges. "This is impossible," said HFY, watching the humans work. "You are using basic maintenance supplies to create military equipment. How do you know these techniques?" Mike looked up from assembling what appeared to be a projectile weapon built from plumbing parts and compressed air canisters. Basic human education. We learn physics, chemistry, and engineering in school. Then life teaches us to apply that knowledge when we need it. But these are weapons, Krelnoth said, his voice filled with amazement and fear. Your species creates instruments of destruction from cleaning supplies. Carol sealed a container filled with mixed chemicals and attached. A simple timer device. We're not a warrior species. We're problem solvers. Right now, our problem is staying alive against attackers with superior technology. The first enemy soldiers reached the security office 30 minutes later. Mike watched them approach through the modified security cameras that Nick had enhanced. With improvised signal boosters, the Void Hunters moved in standard military formation, confident that their advanced weapons and armor made them invincible against primitive colonists. They're not expecting resistance, Mike observed, studying their tactics through the monitor. They think this will be another easy conquest. The first explosion came when the lead soldiers triggered one of Carol's chemical devices. Instead of a violent blast, the container released a cloud of gas that ate through their environmental suits in seconds. The advanced armor that protected them from energy weapons offered no defense against chemical reactions they had never encountered. Impossible, one of the surviving attackers shouted into his communication device. The colonists are using chemical warfare. Our suits are dissolving. Nick activated his electromagnetic pulse device, sending a focused burst of energy toward the enemy communication equipment. The pulse overloaded their electronic systems, leaving the attack force blind and unable to coordinate with their ships. Mike used his improvised projectile weapons to pin down the remaining soldiers. The weapons fired metal projectiles using compressed air and simple mechanical systems that the enemy's energy shields could not deflect. Each shot was precisely aimed to disable rather than kill, but the psychological effect was devastating. The alien civilians watched in shock as three humans with basic tools systematically dismantled a squad of heavily armed enemy soldiers. The attackers' superior technology proved useless against tactics and weapons they could not understand or counter. How? Gasped Zex. They have advanced armor, energy weapons, military training. You defeated them with maintenance supplies. Carol was already preparing the next phase of their defense. Their armor protects against energy and projectile weapons, but it's vulnerable to chemical attack. Their shields stop fast-moving objects, but they can't filter out gases. Their training teaches them to fight enemies with similar technology. We're not fighting them with technology, Nick added, building another electromagnetic device from spare electronics. We're fighting them with knowledge. They can't defend against tactics they've never seen before. The second wave of attackers approached. More carefully, but they still followed standard military doctrine. They advanced in formation, used energy weapons to suppress resistance, and relied on their technological superiority to overcome opposition. Mike had prepared for this. Using principles of defensive engineering that no galactic military taught, he had turned the entire building into a maze of traps and ambush points. The enemy soldiers found themselves fighting an opponent who used sound waves as weapons, created barriers from seemingly empty air, and struck from positions that should not have existed. This is Scout Leader Vexiron to command ship, one of the attackers reported through his failing communication system. The colonists are using unknown warfare techniques. Request immediate reinforcement and specialist analysis. But Nick's jamming devices prevented the message from reaching the owl. Enemy ships. The Void Hunters found themselves isolated, confused, and facing an enemy that broke every rule of civilized warfare. Carl's chemical weapons created zones of denial that the attackers could not cross. Her compounds ate through metal, created toxic atmospheres, and generated reactions that interfered with the enemy's sophisticated sensors. Each mixture was precisely calculated to exploit specific weaknesses in galactic military equipment. Nick's electronic devices disrupted enemy coordination and turned their own technology against them. He overloaded their power systems, corrupted their targeting computers, and used their communication knee. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council convened 3 days after the Kelthera incident. Representatives from 200 species filled the massive chamber, their attention focused on the central platform where Dr. Kane prepared to deliver her findings about humanity. Ambassador Amy Foster sat in the human section. Her small delegation, dwarfed by the representatives of ancient civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. She still did not understand why the council had called this urgent meeting, or why Dr. Kane's research had suddenly become so important. Honored representatives, Dr. Kane began, her tentacles manipulating the holographic display system. 6 months ago, we welcomed humanity into our Federation as a Category C species. Today, I must recommend their immediate reclassification. Murmurs filled the chamber as aliens discussed this unexpected development. Category reclassifications were rare and usually involved species that had made significant technological advances. Over many years, General Vexmore of the dominant caste leaned forward in his seat. His warrior species had little patience for bureaucratic procedures, but even he recognized the importance of proper threat assessment. Dr. Kane, what has humanity done to warrant reclassification? Have they developed new weapons? Conquered? No ring worlds? No, General. They have done something far more significant. They have demonstrated that our entire understanding of their capabilities was fundamentally wrong. Dr. Kane activated the holographic display, showing images from the Zarian 7 rescue and the Kelthera battle. The assembled representatives watched in fascination as the recording showed humans performing impossible feats with simple tools. These humans, Dr. Kane continued, accomplished tasks that our best engineers deemed impossible. They defeated military forces equipped with advanced technology. They did this using what they call their basic toolkit, simple implements that we classified as primitive survival equipment. Captain Vextai's musical tones shifted to express confusion. Dr. Kane, we have studied human tools extensively. They appear to be standard Category C implements. How can such basic equipment produce advanced results? That is exactly the wrong question, Captain. The tools themselves are indeed basic. The knowledge that allows humans to use those tools is not basic at all. Dr. Kane manipulated the holographic display to show detailed analysis of human improvised devices. Each item appeared simple, but the engineering principles behind them were sophisticated beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Observe this chemical compound created by human Carol Wong, Dr. Kane explained. She mixed standard agricultural chemicals to produce a substance that dissolves advanced armor materials. The chemistry involved requires knowledge of molecular interactions, reaction kinetics, and materials science. The chemical formula appeared in the holographic display, and several alien scientists gasped in recognition. The compound was elegant in its simplicity, but devastating in its effectiveness. Now observe this electromagnetic device, built by human Nip Peterson. He used basic electronic components to create a focused energy pulse that disabled military equipment. The physics and engineering involved represent advanced multidisciplinary knowledge. More gasps filled the chamber as the device schematics appeared. The design combined principles from several scientific fields in ways that no galactic engineer had ever considered. Finally, observe the defensive tactics employed by human Mike Davis. He transformed a civilian building into an impregnable fortress using furniture, building materials, and basic tools. The strategic thinking involved demonstrates comprehensive understanding of physics, psychology, and military science. General Vexmore studied the tactical analysis with growing amazement. The humans' defensive strategy was unlike anything in galactic military doctrine, yet it had proved devastatingly effective against superior forces. Dr. Kane asked Council Leader Rex Dahl, whose ancient species had observed the rise and fall of hundreds of civilizations. "Are you suggesting that these three humans are exceptional individuals? Perhaps some kind of specialist warrior caste?" "No, Council Leader. That is what makes this so extraordinary. According to my research, these abilities are not exceptional among humans. They represent standard human education and thinking patterns." Amy Foster felt compelled to speak. "Council Leader, may I address the Assembly?" Rex Dahl nodded, and Amy stood to face the gathered representatives. Dr. Kane is correct. The humans she studied are not special. Mike Davis works in security. Carl Wong studies plants, and Nick Peterson repairs machines. Danny Roberts from Zerion 7 is a mining consultant. They're ordinary people with ordinary jobs. Then how do they possess such advanced capabilities? Asked Vexmore. Amy thought carefully about how to explain human education to species that specialized from childhood. Every human learns basic science, mathematics, and problem solving. We study chemistry, physics, biology, and engineering as standard subjects. By the time we reach adulthood, most humans understand fundamental principles that let us work with any materials we encounter. But surely such comprehensive education produces specialists? Suggested Dr. Kane. No, Amy replied. We do specialize in our careers, but we maintain broad knowledge because life is unpredictable. A farmer might need to repair machines. A soldier might need to build shelter. A scientist might need to cook food. We learn to adapt our knowledge to whatever problems we face. The implications of Amy's words rippled through the chamber. Species after species began to understand that humanity's approach to education and problem-solving was completely different from galactic norms. Ambassador Foster, said Rex Dahl slowly, are you telling us that every human possesses the knowledge to transform basic materials into advanced technology? Not advanced technology, Amy corrected. We use basic scientific principles to solve problems with available materials. What looks advanced to you is elementary to us. Dr. Kane activated another display showing human educational materials. I have analyzed human teaching methods. Their children learn chemistry through cooking, physics through sports and music, engineering through building toys, and mathematics through everyday activities. By age 16, most humans possess multidisciplinary knowledge that exceeds the specialized education of most galactic species. General Vexmore stood slowly, his massive frame imposing even in the vast chamber. Dr. Kane, you are describing a species where every individual is essentially a multi-specialist combat engineer. Is this accurate? Dr. Kane's tentacles moved, in what her species used to indicate grave concern. General, that assessment is actually conservative. Humans don't just possess technical knowledge. They possess the mindset to apply that knowledge creatively under pressure. They see potential, weapons in everything around them. But they claim to be peaceful, protested Peaceful Builder Representative Kethlin. They are peaceful, Amy assured the Assembly. Humans prefer cooperation to conflict. But we also believe in being prepared for whatever challenges we might face. Our education system teaches us to think our way through any problem using whatever resources are available. Council Leader Rex Dahl called for a brief recess as the representatives digested this information. During the break, species groups gathered to discuss the implications of humanity's revealed capabilities. When the session resumed, Rex Dahl spoke for the entire council. Ambassador Foster, the Galactic Federation must reassess humanity's classification. Your species possesses capabilities that we have never encountered. The combination of comprehensive technical knowledge and adaptive thinking makes every human a potential strategic asset. Or strategic threat, added General Vex more grimly. Amy stood again, understanding that humanity's future in the galaxy was being decided. Honored representatives, humans don't want to be seen as a threat. We joined the Federation to learn from other species and contribute to galactic peace. Our abilities exist because we learned to survive in a challenging environment, not because we seek conflict. But the potential for conflict exists, Dr. Kane observed. A species where every individual can create weapons from household materials represents an unprecedented security consideration. Then perhaps, suggested Captain Vextai, we should focus on the positive applications. Humans have already demonstrated remarkable problem-solving abilities. They could contribute significantly to galactic research and development. The debate continued for hours, with species after species weighing in on humanity's proper classification. Some wanted strict oversight of human activities. Others saw opportunities for collaboration. A few suggested that humans should be studied more extensively before any decisions were made. Finally, Council Leader Rexdow called for order. The Galactic Federation Council has reached a decision. Humanity will be reclassified as an adaptive engineering species, a new category created specifically for civilizations that demonstrate comprehensive technical knowledge combined with creative application abilities. Amy felt relief that the classification sounded positive rather than threatening. However, Rexdoll continued, this classification comes with both opportunities and responsibilities. Humans will be invited to participate in advanced galactic research projects where their unique abilities can benefit all species. In return, humanity agrees to share their educational methods